Welcome back to Bella Confidential. If you're just joining us, earlier we heard the stories from Ami and Alia with their battle. You know, they're still living their lives after having leukemia and of course lymphoma. But joining us, we have Dr. Haris Abdul Rahman, consultant hematologist of SDMC, and we have Dr. Goh Kim Yen, consultant physician and hematologist of KPJ Ampang Putri Specialist Hospital. Welcome, doctors.
Thank you.
And of course, these are our two lovely ladies, Ami and Alia. Well, you were listening to their stories earlier. What do you think of these very strong women?
I mean, they're a lot stronger than I could ever be. I mean, I really appreciate what they have to share with us, and certainly the attitude that they have makes our job a lot easier.
For you as well, Dr. Goh, I'm sure you must look.
They are magnificent.
Wow, that is the word, magnificent. Because I didn't expect this when I was when I met them. The positivity in them, right? But of course, we also want to talk about what would be the best. Well, they've been through chemo, they've been through all that, you know, being an inpatient and everything, and of course they've had relapse. Well, they're doing their self-help and all that. But what are the other options available to them? And maybe, or you can explain as well about leukemia and lymphoma. What is the major difference and how they should be treated?
Yeah, sure. The two ladies fill us up nicely with the background, what it is. It certainly is, well, looking back 20 years ago, it's probably a death sentence, more or less. But nowadays we moved on. We have treatment options. Obviously, we in the medical field have a set goal in terms of trying to get them better through a certain methods. We use chemotherapy, we use radiotherapy, depending on what the disease entails. And obviously, there are always going to be failures. None of our treatment is going to be 100% successful. We have to pick and choose which are the best for them, and the treatment is actually individualized for the patient. And in both these ladies' case, it worked to a certain extent. I mean, they did well, but unfortunately, as often the challenge that we have, the disease do come back. They're very resistant, and when they do come back, we have to have a plan B. The plan B comes in many forms, and I think one of the biggest way of us to tackle when the disease do come back, or preventing it from coming back the third time, would be what we call stem cell treatment.
Stem cell treatment. And what is this stem cell treatment? Is it a transplant, Dr. Goh?
Basically, yes. So what you do is that you use stem cells, either from the same individual, say the patient herself or himself, or from a different individual, and then you infuse it into the recipient. The recipient is usually the patient.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's either from yourself or from
another individual.
Or another individual who would be like your.
It can be related or unrelated. The related ones are usually the siblings, and the unrelated ones are usually we find it from the pool, and that pool is what we call a donor registry.
Wow, so that's the way you find a good match. Obviously, the donor would have to.
Yes. I mean, when we talk about the term transplant, there's a few ways to talk about it. First of all, depending on where the source comes from, that determines the kind of transplant that the patient is having. In terms of sources, it could be, as what Dr. Goh mentioned, the patient themselves. We call this autologous transplant. And the source may be also from a sibling, brothers or sisters. But there's only 1 in 4 chance that the sibling can be a suitable donor. Failing that, then we have to look at the bigger picture, bigger masses. Then we come into the realms of what we call match unrelated transplant. This is where the fun begins, so to speak, in terms of being more challenging. And nowadays we have other sources as well. My 2 children got their cord blood stored, so hopefully they don't have such disease, and that's a good resource for stem cell. And nowadays there are other methods of getting the stem cell from blood.
And I wanted to ask Alia and Ami, have you been to check on this option, or? For you?
I've checked with my family, siblings, and there's no match.
No match.
I've checked. I've tried to do my own blood, but it's not enough. I also checked with the unrelated people. There's no match.
No match for you as yet.
As yet.
And for you, Alia, have you been through that as well to find a match? to go through this option, or?
Oh no, not yet. The truth is that the doctors in the hospital would have preferred for me to undergo the stem cell transplant. But in my case, I've considered the side effects and the cost of it, and I decided to go veer on this path on my own. Yes, but I think it's important that people know about what the stem cell
can do.
What it can do, because a lot of people, they just donate blood and they think that's enough, but you don't realize that there's another way to save people's lives besides donating blood and organs, and that's by donating your stem cells.
Wow. So people can just go and donate their stem cells?
Sure can.
So we are called the unrelated people to...
Correct.
To obviously the patient.
But the chances of one person on the street being matched with a person that is where the stem cells intended for is very low.
Very low. But if everyone were to do something,
and that's why the bank comes in. The bank is what we call the donor registry. And in Malaysia, we do have a bone marrow donor registry. It's in Institute of Medical Research.
Well, tell me a bit how it actually, the sort of procedure when the patient goes through it, and also tell me about the donor. How is it very invasive? Maybe you can share with us a bit on that as well.
There's a couple of things to take home here. The first one is identifying the donor, and the second stage, obviously, once you're confirmed that you're a suitable donor, how do we actually extract the stem cell out of you? The first step, identifying a donor, is actually pretty simple. It's just a simple blood test. It's similar to identifying your blood group, but we do a slightly more specific test. We do what we call a HLA typing, meaning your fingerprinting.
Yes, like a finger,
Exactly. And then when you have a suitable fingerprint to another recipient, that's where the exchange can happen. So once you identify that is a super donor, we have to find a way of getting the stem cell out of you. It's not an operation.
It's not an operation.
It's not an operation. You don't lose a kidney.
Here what do we mean is that we want to mobilize the stem cells. Because in normal person, the stem cells live in our bone marrow.
So it lives in our bone marrow.
And everybody has stem cells.
Correct.
Yes.
Since they're babies, right? Is it in the umbilical cord as well? The stem cells? Something like that, right?
So for adults, the stem cells they live in the marrow. So we can use a stem cell hormone to stimulate these stem cells to spill into the bloodstream.
I see.
And from then, we use a machine, what we call a blood cell separator, which can intelligently select the stem cells out, and then we turn the other normal cells back into the person.
Wow, so it's all done with the machine, and it's very not invasive.
The procedure is, imagine the person has got a dialysis procedure.
Oh, okay. That doesn't sound too daunting at all. And then, of course, you're doing something good for someone out there.
Exactly. And it's the second stage we're talking about here, not the first stage. The first stage, just a simple blood test. This dialysis and stem cell extraction only happens once you find a suitable donor to give it to.
And for the patients, once you've got that stem cell, how's the procedure for them? Is it just transferring it? Is it how does it work?
First, the patient has to go through a conditioning procedure. So the conditioning procedure involves usually chemotherapy, and sometimes we incorporate some irradiation as well. And after which, the stem cells, which can be fresh, which means that it just harvested from the donor, or it can be cryopreserved in liquid nitrogen. And what we do is that we can thaw the one that is being cryopreserved and then infuse them into the patient.
And how effective is the stem cell transplant treatment? How effective? Is there any risk involved?
It's a difficult question to answer because it goes back to the individual patient. If it's their own cell, autologous transplant, then the challenge is a bit less. The main risk is during the conditioning chemotherapy. So with any chemotherapy, there's always a risk of organ damage, risk of infection. And once you create space for the stem cell to go in, you just infuse as per normal blood transfusion. And within a period of about 10 days, the new stem cell that's been infused will start to grow into the patient. The second kind of transplant, which is the allogeneic transplant, or from a different donor, that's a bit more challenging because there's always a rejection. If you imagine kidney transplant, the rejection is between you and the kidney that comes to you. But when it comes to bone marrow transplant, it is the cell that is infused into you that will actually reject you.
Wow.
So there's a lot more delicate preparation needed before, and also more delicate treatment to follow up
on
that. And
that.
in terms of risk, also you need a specific place to have the treatment. It's not something that can be done.
Just like that.
All exactly.
Right. And then there are unique differences between a stem cell transplant and an organ transplant. You know? The organ transplant refer to the heart or the kidney. Because in hematology, when we transplant someone, we not only transplant the stem cells, but also transplant the immunity.
The immunity of
the donor.
Correct.
Of the donor.
Which is so important, right?
Into the recipient, the patient. So you will find that it is easy. We can do a stem cell transplant with persons with different blood groups. So it doesn't really, it's not a big
not a big deal. Because the immune part is also very important. Like the red blood cells, which
our body will relearn, and after a period of a few months, we relearn the immune system, and we go back to. In fact, after 6 to 12 months, most of these stem cell recipients did not have to go on any medication. They are completely off treatment.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask my last few questions to Ami and Alia for you. So after listening to all this, I'm sure you've done your research. If you do find a match, would you definitely go through this?
Something to be considered.
Yeah. And for yourself, I mean, I know you've gone through your. But what do you want to urge again to people out there? What do you want to tell ladies out there or people out there who might be going through the same thing? What's your big message to them?
Well, I guess I would say it's all in the mind, because you must realize that the mind can affect the body. So if you win the battle up here, you win the battle here.
Wow. Nice one, Alia. And for you, Ami?
Yeah, I think everyone should go out there and know how to donate stem cells. At least get yourself checked or do the HLA typing.
Yes.
The more people that goes, the more chances that
people who want to get it done can get it done. And for the doctors, I mean, where can people go to find out about where they can actually do this? Just so our viewers know.
All right. It will involve a blood test, so you will need to actually go and see a doctor. Now, lately there are a few private companies that actually provide services when it comes to this. They do provide services to identify or to type your HLA, but in terms of giving treatment, you still need to see a hematologist. So it's easily accessible.
But then we need to differentiate between a private, something that is privately done or publicly done, you see. Because if a donor comes forward to say that he wants to have the tissue typing done, but if he doesn't pledge his genetic information into the pool, meaning that for us doctors, we cannot help a patient to search into the pool
as well.
So,
so it's so important, like you said, for those, go make sure, check it out and all that as well. So thank you so much, doctors. Thank you so much, Ami and Alia, for coming onto the show. And I think you've definitely been an inspiration to a lot of women and a lot of men out there. Don't smile, because I can see this lady, she's a superwoman. Anyway, Bella will be going for another short break. I thank my guests so much again for coming onto the show. But when we come back, we'll be talking to a dance guru. That's right, it's all about preserving the art of dance. We'll be right back after this. I can do this. Something like that. Thank you so much again, gentlemen, for coming on the show. So do catch the show in the Nataka Festival, as it sounds really, really interesting. Well, I'm Vanessa Chong signing off and wishing you a great day ahead, and to all SPMers and parents of SPMers, all the best. Take care.